Hi. Namaste. Namo Namaha. Hola. Welcome to the beginning of another live Sangha. I'm glad you could make it. I'm grateful to be here. I hope to be your humble host. And if I'm not, hold me accountable. I trust whatever you are going through at this moment, that you feel valid in how you express your feelings. Know that this too shall pass, and I hope you find peace and relaxation here. Hello, Fiddle Leaf. Welcome. How are you doing today? Our first guests are arriving, like yourself. So good. I'm so happy to hear that, dear Fiddle Leaf. What is one thing you learned today that you didn't know yesterday? Hello, dear Imp Kitty. I'm doing well. Thank you, dear Fiddle Leaf. You always find peace and relaxation here, dear Hippie Heart. Really? It makes me very happy to hear that. If any of you have any stories to tell since the last time I saw you, please feel free to let me know of your latest escapades or any reflections that you've had in the meantime on life, the universe, and everything. I look forward to connecting with you all. I'm wearing a Santa hat. Namaste, dear Sky Guardian, and welcome a old 89. Welcome, dear Ella. Which reminds me, I have a prayer from the Taittiriya Upanishad as well as the Katha Upanishad. They both begin with this invocation in Sanskrit, one of the many Shanti mantras. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryang Garvavahai Tejasvina Vadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May the Divine protect us both together. May the Divine nourish us both together. May our study be vigorous and effective, and may we not mutually dispute or hate any. May there be peace in us, may there be peace in our environment, and may there be peace in the forces that act on us. Dear Fiddle Leaf, in answer to my question, you learned a recipe about sweet potatoes with chickpeas, and you're pretty excited about that. Oh, two of some of my favorite foods. Sweet potatoes and chickpeas. Oh, you might have to share that recipe with me. Dear Saf, you ask, what can we learn from Saint Nicholas? A beautiful question. If anyone wants to share their insights too, I'd love to know. I don't know much about the original Saint Nicholas, other than he's one of the many inspirations that formed the character we call Santa Claus. I imagine that, much like other saints, he's venerated for his generosity and compassion. And if the Christmas movies I used to watch as a kid were in any way a documentary, I know that he was very giving. If they align with the historical Saint Nicholas, I don't know. But we certainly find purpose and value in giving to others, because ultimately, everything we have to give away, including one day this body and all its possessions. So, being in the spirit of giving can help us, bring us into contact with our ultimate nature. Welcome, dear faithful being. Many blessings, dear Hippie Heart Sherry. And thank you, Giuliano, for your heart mate. Om Bhur-bhuvasvaha tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo devasya dhimahi Dhiyo yo nah prachodayat. Good evening, dear Robbie and Zachary. Dear faithful being, you ask if I'm vegan. I am not vegan, although I have a lot of respect for vegans. I'm close. The only animal product I eat is dairy. But no eggs, no meat, no fish. It's also pretty rare that I do eat dairy, but I still eat ghee. I have a little cup of ghee every morning. I guess you could call that a lacto-vegetarian diet. But in yoga, it's called a yogic diet, a sattvic diet for the purpose of bringing purity of mind. And it's been that way for about a year and a few months now. So it's still relatively new in my life. I'm still learning how to cover my nutrition. But it's working well for me. I trust in the body and the body's needs. Anyway, I'm so grateful to have you here and all of you. Welcome, dear UK History Talk, Saeed. Dear Hybrid Jen, you do give, but you never share with anyone. How much or what organization, any random act, no recording. I see what you mean. Yeah, that's the best kind of gift. One which is purely for the sake of giving, rather than anything in return, including an acknowledgement. That's funny, Enchantress Theodora. Sorry, dear Sky Guardian, one of my videos was mislabeled. Thank you for your patience in that. We make a lot of them, almost every day, on average, a few every day. We all have a journey to tell. And so lovely to see you all here. Best wishes back to you, dear Wonder Why. Thank you. Dear Robbie, you wonder if I have any book recommendations. I have one that we can read from together. We're almost done this book, actually. Dear Hippie Heart Share, you ask, what was the hardest thing to give up? I assume you're asking in the context of my diet? Maybe. We were also talking about giving in general. Hardest thing to give up is the body. Or maybe the mind. No, when it comes to my diet, it was a natural process for me. It wasn't like I felt like I had to and there was any resistance. It was actually, as soon as my body was kind of ready, I wanted to let go of it. It would be harder for me to have continued. And in the same way, I hope you all trust in your body's needs and what it's craving. My body naturally stopped craving some foods, and it happened to be in line with a yogic diet. And if we continue in our spiritual practice, I think we'll find similar things happen for all of us. Yes, I would love to read from another section of Moksha with you. Liberation, a book by Tara Lamont. But thank you, dear Tina, for the rose that you had sent. Hare Krishna. Dear Lucy, thank you for your pair of GGs. Om Ganganapataye Namaha. And dear Isabella, thank you for your finger heart. Om Tham Namaschandraya. Namaskaram, dear Stevie G. Welcome, dear Lucy. Thank you, dear Fiddle Leaf. Yes, as I've gotten older, I've learned to no longer mask my way of speaking and just speak in what feels normal and natural for me. Speaking slow and soft is most authentic for what I have to share. Dear Derek, you wonder, am I important? Who am I? I am no one, really. I'm another fellow human, and I'm grateful to be a human with you. Dear Andy, you had asked, what's my thought on Islam? I don't really have thoughts per se on any religion other than that they can all be a valid path for personal growth and the uncovering of truth that the ancient ones before us had realized so directly. And if we follow a path that works for us, so too we can climb higher into the understanding of our nature. Now let's see where we left off in moksha, liberation. We were beginning the 15th chapter, the last part of the book. We only have that much of the book left. Let's dive right into it. May this reading relax your mind and awaken your heart. One morning, as I was unpacking a box of used books, I discovered a paperback jammed in between Margaret Atwood and Ayn Rand. Panchadashi by 14th century author Sri Vidyaranya Swami. I scanned the English translation and commentary. Both seemed straightforward. Can we study this text? I asked Miss Nandi, my Sanskrit teacher, and the person who was letting me stay at Om Depot, the bookstore. Why not? She said. Panchadashi comprised 15 chapters divided into 3 sections: discrimination between the real and unreal, the nature of the self as that supreme reality, and the blissful nature of that supreme reality. The teaching method was reasoning illustrated by metaphor. Just as colorful scenes painted on a white canvas depict people, animals, trees, and mountains, so also the world we experience is superimposed on the conscious self. When I say, "This is that same Devadatta I met 10 years ago," there is no mistaking Devadatta's identity. I negate time and place and refer to Devadatta as himself. Similarly, the individual that I am at present, of a certain age, height, gender, is negated to reach my true self. That self is present in all 3 states of my experience: waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, and does not change when my body, mind, and senses change. As the anvil in a blacksmith's shop beats iron into shapes, but does not change the iron itself, the self remains the immutable witness to changes in the body, senses, and mind. The self is not only existence and consciousness, but is bliss itself. I mistake the space contained in a room as the vastness of space. I mistake my reflection in a mirror as my true self. Existence, consciousness, and bliss are not qualities of my true nature, but are my true nature and identical with that supreme consciousness, called in Sanskrit Brahman. These are all quotes from this text hundreds of years ago. The text turns its attention to the Mahāvākyas, or great statements sprinkled throughout the Upanishads, ancient scriptures that bluntly and baldly state the identity of the individual consciousness, termed Atman, with universal consciousness, Brahman. 4 of the Mahāvākyas are the most popular. Prajñānam Brahma, the highest wisdom is Brahman. Tattvam asi, thou art that. Ayam Atma Brahma, this self is Brahman. And Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. For his analysis, the author, Vidyaranya, tackles the statement Tattvam asi, thou art that, from the Chandogya Upanishad. Tattvam asi, thou art that, boldly asserts that you, Tvam, individual consciousness, Atman, are none other than all-pervasive consciousness, Tat, Brahman. How is that possible? You will become old and die, but Brahman is eternal. That is all-powerful consciousness. You are the jiva, the humble individual. What type of sentence does Tattvam asi represent? One type of sentence is composed of words that have different meanings, like the book is on the table. One cannot say the book is the table. No, Tattvam asi, thou art that, is not such a sentence. Could it be a sentence where 2 words mean the same thing, like Rama is God? How could this be? The jiva, the individual, is not an iota like Brahman. No, this sentence is not like that. Is the sentence like the term blue lotus, where blue is an adjective qualifying a lotus? Is the individual an adjective that qualifies Brahman? Not at all. This is not a sentence like that. Vidyaranya then resorts to indirect meanings and implied meanings of sentences. If we say, the white runs, while watching a horse race, we imply a white horse runs. The word horse is implied. Is something implied in Tattvam asi that must be added? No, it is not a sentence like that. Because if you add something to the individual to make her divine, the existing non-divine attributes of the individual are retained. Or we can have a sentence. The house is on the river. What is implied is that the river is on the bank of the river nearby, not directly on the river. No, that is not the implied meaning of the Mahāvākya that unequivocally states that the individual is divine and not merely close to the divine. What we must do, says the author, is remove a part of either side of the equation and leave a part. If one says, I ate a mango, the implication is that the skin and seed were not eaten. The skin and seed were removed and the fleshy part of the mango eaten. When I introduced a friend saying, this is that Devadatta you met 20 years ago, it is understood that this Devadutta, who is bald, plump, and old, is the same Devadatta who was skinny, young, and with a full head of black hair 20 years ago. The term upadhi is used to collectively represent whatever changes. Young to old, skinny to fat, upadhi gives rise to an appearance that is misunderstood. The great statement, tattvam asi, thou art that, can thus be understood as follows. Individual consciousness. Atman plus upadhi, tall, clever, old, sad, rich, equals Brahman plus upadhi, the manifest universe. Remove the upadhi, the limiting adjunct, from both sides. Individual consciousness, Atman, without upadhi, is existence, consciousness, eternal. Universal consciousness, Brahman, without upadhi, is existence, consciousness, eternal. Thus, individual consciousness, Atman, equals universal consciousness, Brahman. There is only consciousness. A brass bowl filled with marigolds and a small round brass gong were added to the Om Depot altar. Miss Nandi chose a marigold and held it up. Do you see the color of this flower? Orange. Do you see its semi-spherical shape? Yes. Take away the color and shape. There is no object called flower apart from your seeing the orange color and shape. Close your eyes. The orange color and shape have disappeared, but your experience continues. There is no seeing, but are you aware? Your seeing is nothing apart from your awareness. Blank out awareness. Is there any seeing? No. In your experience, there is no object called flower apart from color and shape. There is no color and shape apart from seeing. There is no seeing apart from awareness. Is that not so? She struck the gong and substituted the experience of hearing for seeing. Are these exercises a type of meditation? I asked. No, she said. They are pointers, pointing you in the direction of awareness. Do you remember the story of the 10th boy? How could I forget? I said. When the leader of the boys counts, he looks for objects and sees 9 boys. 9 objects are out there for counting, so the 10th should also be out there. The 10th is not out there, so he must have drowned, the leader deduces. The existence of the 10th boy is hidden because of ignorance, mistakenly. With knowledge, ignorance is dispelled, and the boy says, I am the 10th. Pardon me. Awareness can never be hidden because it is not an object. Awareness, limitless, vast, eternal, bliss, non-dual, in which your body, mind, senses, the universe are appearances that come and go. That's the end of this chapter, but not the end of our reading, for there is another layer of the story that takes place at the level of the divine. Sid, who is Shiva, and Miss Nandi, who is Shiva's bull, were comfortably seated in a booth at the new cafe around the corner of Om Depot, trying out various coffee concoctions. The demons are still making their move, Sid said. You know I am doing my best, Miss Nandi responded bleakly. Brave of you to take up Panchadashi and its equations, Sid said, to cheer her up. She picked it herself. She needs logic, proof, equations. Poetry and revelations are of no use, and, as you know, arithmetic is not my strong point. You mean algebra? Logic and skepticism are hallmarks of where she comes from. Where roads are laid out in rectangles, Miss Nandi observed. A grid, they call it. I've never understood the concept. What is the point of a straight road? Miss Nandi tested her foamy latte. Delicious. By the way, she's taken to singing, she said. While she was scrubbing the bathroom floor, I heard an excellent exposition of the Hamsadvani Raga. And why wouldn't she? She's learning from the best, he said. Sid was referring to the blind beggar who had taken a position on the footpath outside, who was secretly none other than Narada, the cosmic musician, who could not stay away when anything interesting was about to happen. It's very true. Almost every mythology in India, Narada shows up whenever something interesting happens. She wanted to bring Narada into the shop, and I would not allow it. He was very dirty, with oozing sores on his feet. So she took a bucket of hot water outside and washed his filthy feet on the pavement. Then she rubbed some ointment on the sores with bare hands. Compassion, another hallmark of where she comes from. And meditation, Sid asked, any progress? No, not yet. She has been hurt too deeply. She is cheerful during the day, but weeps at night, quietly, sometimes in her sleep. Surely I can't force her to meditate. I've given her pointers. Shouldn't she ask for instruction? I mean The demons are taking control, Sid interrupted, carelessly, indifferently. But Miss Nandi was sensitive to the edge of anger in his tone. Maybe I can suggest that simple technique that uses samasas, compounds, she said quickly. She likes grammar. He looked around for the boy to bring her another scrumptious latte, this time with chocolate shavings. When she turned around, Sid had disappeared. Om Namah Shivaya, she sighed, beckoned to the boy, and grudgingly paid the bill. She wondered, and not for the first time, how the Lord of the Cosmos never had any change on him, not even for a tip. That concludes our reading for today. That's got to be one of my favorite chapters so far. I love the compassion and playful insights. If you have any final thoughts, do share them with me. I love how so much drama is broken up by so much wisdom. Thank you for listening. Now my attention can return to all of you, and we can turn our hearts and minds to anything which we may desire to talk about. Welcome everyone who joined while we were reading. Let me transition from Shravana to Manana now, dedicated to Q&A. Boing. Thank you, dear Isabella, for the finger heart you had sent. Om Hrim Namah Shivaya. Dear Gabriella, thank you for your heart to me as well. Radhe Radhe. Dear Starlight, wow, thank you for your tiny. Merry Christmas.
Christmas and a Happy New Year.
The Tiny Diny says. And Hybrid Jen, thank you for your trio of deemed cheers. I'm Saraswatyai Namaha. Hello, dear Crossfires. You love lattes too. You make them every morning for yourself at home. Well, I'm glad you can relate to Miss Nandi. She's quite the character. It's said that Nandi, the bull, if you whisper a wish in her ear, it'll come true. So maybe if I whisper a wish in your ear, it'll come true as well. Hello, dear Alex. I see we have a profound conversation about the nature of consciousness sparked by our Vedanta reading. CJR had asked, is it possible to be aware of being unconscious? I think the trick to understand how consciousness continues when sleeping is simply to understand that the sentence, you are unconscious, doesn't stop there, but it's an abbreviation. Unconscious is a verb and not a noun, not a state. It's a shorthand for saying you're not conscious of anything. So there still is consciousness, but there's nothing to be conscious of. So the full statement is, when we are asleep, we are unconscious of anything. But the experience continues without any objects to experience. In other words, it is... Thank you, Billy, for you're reminding me of the word class. Unconscious is indeed an adjective, but adjectives can be used in noun forms when they do not precede any noun, for example. Like in that sentence, you are unconscious, for example. But in this case, it's a verb form. You are unconscious of anything. Consciousness continues, but the things do not. While we are awake, we have consciousness of objects. While we are asleep, we have consciousness of no objects. So you already are conscious in sleep. Nothing changes, even in enlightenment there. The difference is we now understand that it's not an experience of absence. It's an absence of experience. Just like how you can hear silence, or how you can see the color black, even though literally speaking, black is not a color. It's an absence of color. And literally speaking, silence is not a sound. It's an absence of sound. Still, you can hear silence and see blackness or darkness. In the same way, we experience absence during sleep. The tricky part is not conflating conscious experience with thinking. We tend to associate our minds with consciousness, and so when the mind is thinking, then we say we're conscious, and when the mind is not thinking, we say we're unconscious. But it is an abbreviation. We are unconscious of thoughts, inclusive, and you do not think in deep sleep. Dear CJ, you ask, so when Eckhart Tolle talks about conscious and unconscious people, what does that mean? Good question. Again, it's an abbreviation people who are conscious of presence, of stillness, of awareness, of the moment, and people who are not conscious of stillness, presence of the moment, awareness, for example. Everyone is conscious, but we are not all conscious of the same aspect of our experience. We bring our conscious to different places. And every unconscious person has the power to become a conscious person. Just a matter of time. Just like how Eckhart Tolle was not always peaceful, but he had that awakening in the middle of the night where he woke up depressed and anxious as usual, and he realized that he couldn't live with himself anymore. But the moment his mind created that thought, a revelation occurred. Who is this I that cannot live with myself? Are there two people here or just one? How can I speak of myself as though it were an object of my experience when I am the subject of this experience? So there was a gaining of consciousness of the distinction between subject and object, and that ultimately grounded him in the present, since the I, the limited self, the ego, is not truly present, but is a manifestation of memory and imagination, of the mental faculties of the past and the future. It's a beautiful thought experiment. Notice that you don't identify with anything in front of you because you feel some space between yourself and what you're observing. You don't feel like you are the wall because the wall's over there. And how could you be over there if you're over here looking at the wall? When a car drives past, we don't feel like we are the car because it comes and goes from a distance in our experience. If we can create the same sort of feeling of distance as we do in the physical world with our mental world, then we can cultivate a sense of non-attachment to the mental identity, to the mind, and its relation to the body as well. Dear Ragnhildur, you ask, can you be conscious but unaware? To me, these words are synonymous in the context in which I share them. That's for you to understand what I mean when I'm referring to them. You may use these words in different ways. In Vedanta, the context in which I'm speaking from, they are synonymous. In fact, they come from the same root. Consciousness in Sanskrit is chit. Awareness is chaitanya. Chaitanya is just a variation of chit. It's kind of like the difference between the conscious and the consciousness. Chaitanya is like the ness form of it. But we do put consciousness and awareness with the ness at the end. We're translating from another language. And in the language they are the same, just from different contexts. Just in the same way you can talk about an ocean and the sea. Well, what's the difference between the ocean and the sea? Well, just the word that we use to describe them and the connotation that it contains, but they both refer to large bodies of water that cover the surface of the earth. Thank you, dear lioness. Speaking of Ness, for your pair of roses. Om Tham Namaschandraya. Perhaps the most difficult thing about coming to understand these truths through language is that we all use the same words in different ways, so it's good to gain a bearing about what we mean by these words. Thank you, dear Davis, for your heart, me. Jaya Sitaram. Dear Hybrid Jen, thank you for your coral. Om Vastudevataya Namaha. Thank you, dear the Canuck Gypsy. Happiest of holidays to you as well. Dear CJ, you had asked, what about darkness and light? Do I see that as the same thing? They certainly cannot exist without each other, because light requires a medium to propagate through. That medium, when the light is not there, is called darkness. Darkness is just a name for space without any light in it. So darkness is space. Can there be light without space? No, of course not. There must be a space for that light to be, otherwise where would you put it? There'd be no room for light to be. So clearly, the darkness of space is inseparable from light. Now, for a different reason, darkness is inseparable from light, or vice versa, whatever the opposite is in this case. Can there be space without light? Well, in many places of the universe, absolutely. As we just said, those places are called dark. But can there be a universe in which there is space, but no light anywhere? I suppose in theory, but in our experience, that would not be anything that we would call a universe. Both at a physical level, light is the force carrier of the electromagnetic interaction. So without light, there would be no charge, there would be no magnetism. Therefore, there would be no atoms. There would be no molecules. There would be no planets. There would be no stars. So in order to have a universe, as far as we know, we need something that acts as the illuminator. And light is that. So if you have space, you might as well have something to fill that space. So it seems reasonable for me to conclude that wherever there is darkness, there must also be some light that will fill that space. And wherever there is light, there must be a space which, without that light, remains dark. In our experience, the waking and dream state are like light, and our deep sleep is like darkness. And when we experience the truth of our consciousness as the space that is both the darkness and the inspirer of that light, then we see the oneness of both. In all three states, waking, dream, and deep sleep. It's actually kind of funny, to a Vedantin, they talk about the three states, waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, but there really isn't much of a difference between dreaming and waking, other than the object permanence. Dear Hybrid Jin, you share, you always want to stay when you're dreaming. You gotta be pushed out. Understandable. If you make this world to be more dreamlike, maybe you'll want to stay in it too. That's so cute, Ella. You share, your chihuahuas are snoring extra loud tonight. Oh, dear Hybrid Jen, you share, you watched Rise of Skywalker and cried. Me too! I think my dad and I both did. It was funny. I don't think either of us expected to cry at a Star Wars movie. But I remember tearing up and looking at my dad, and he was also tearing up. Powerful writing. Hello, dear son. Thank you for your heart mate. Om Brahm Bhairvaya Namo Namah. Dear Lorem, you share, in quantum mechanics things can act like waves and particles. Does our perception shape reality in the same way? What a beautiful question. The ancient yogis, the rishis, have told us that awareness is not a passive act, because whatever we are aware of, just by being contained in our awareness, it changes. It grows. Awareness grows what's within its contents. If you have a baby, you can give it food and water and it might physically get larger. But will the baby really grow as a person without awareness? If the parents and family don't give attention and love, if they don't shelter the baby within their own field of consciousness, being aware of everything that they're up to, will that person grow? Physically, perhaps, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually, they will not. That kind of power is called Adi Shakti in Sanskrit, the highest power, the first power. It is our primordial free will, that what we bring our conscious attention to, that experience begets more of itself. It evolves in some way. That's why it's so important to surround ourselves with people that inspire positivity in us, role models, people with a lot of love, because we see that as something that becomes a vital part of our existence, and it evolves in our life, and that's called satsanga. True association. You associate with truth. Truth will be bestowed in your life. Thank you, dear Babbelfishy, for your tiny yippee. And that is the power of the feminine, to grow, to make things grow. Dear Stevie G, you ask, do I know the Adi Shakti mantra? I'm sure there are many, but given the rules of Sanskrit grammar, we can create one. For example, at the end of Shakti is an E sound, an E stem. To convert that into the dative form in a mantra, then you replace the E with an Aye. So, to Adi Shakti would be Adi Shaktaye. So if we want to bring salutations, Namaha, then we'd also have to modify the ending of the word Namaha, as it ends with a visarga, an expulsion of breath. When that expulsion of breath is before an A sound and after the A sound of Nama, then, if I'm not mistaken, both of those drop and become an O apostrophe, or an O avagraha, it's called. Therefore, if you wanted to give salutations to Adi Shakti, you'd say, Om Namo Dishakdaye. Om Namo Dishakdaye. But you can create all sorts of variations. You can add another Namo before the Namo. Make it extra salutations. Om Namo Namo Dishakdaye. You can even add one after. Om Namo Man. Om Namo Namo Dishakdaye Namah. Salutations, salutations. To the primordial power, salutations. You give another one. Adi Shakti, Adi Shakti, Namo Namo Mrityun Bhagwati Mrityun Bhagwati Namo Namo. You don't know if you spelled that right. Well, this is a new one for me. Let's learn, see if I can find some information about that one for you. Adi Shakti, Adi Shakti, Adi Shakti, Namo Namo. Pratham Bhagavati, Pratham Bhagavati. What is this word, Pratham? Is that in reference to the earth? Prithvi? No, it means utmost lover. I love that. Pri is love. Tam is a superlative. I like that. Of course, Bhagavati means the feminine and personal divine form. I like that. Cool. I'll add it to my list of mantras. One more time. It is Adi Shakti, Adi Shakti, Adi Shakti, Namo Namo Pratham Bhagavati, Pratham Bhagavati. Beautiful. Much love. Welcome, dear Donzuela. Thank you, dear Spencerius, for your trio of tiny tinies. Yippee! Dear Ella, you had asked if I could please explain Advaita and Neo-Advaita and the difference between them. I would be happy to. It's an important distinction. Let me bring up the blackboard. Where is my blackboard? By the way, I use Microsoft Paint. There it is. What is it? It's a whiteboard today. I see there's many wonderful questions being asked. I will get around to answering all of them, but one at a time. So, what's the difference between Advaita and Neo-Advaita? First of all, what is Advaita? For those that haven't heard of this. That fit on the screen? Let me double check. Yeah, just barely. Okay. To understand what Advaita is, we have to add in the second word here, which is Vedanta. Advaita is usually a shorthand for Advaita, Vedanta. And there's something funny about how the word Vedanta relates to Neo-Advaita Vedanta, but we'll get to that in a second. So what is Vedanta? Well, it's two words in Sanskrit. It's Veda and Anta. Veda means knowledge. Anta means the end. So Vedanta is the ultimate knowledge. It's what you find at the end of knowledge, so to speak. And it's a set of traditions that stem from the ancient scriptures called the Vedas, which just mean the knowledge. And there are many different traditions of Vedanta. Many people interpret the ultimate truths of the Vedas in different ways. Perhaps the most well-known of which is Advaita Vedanta. In this case is a prefix meaning not, and Dvaita means dual. So this is a-dual or non-dual. What is the duality here? The duality is between yourself and the universe, really. Between individual consciousness and universal consciousness. So Advaita Vedanta is the philosophical tradition stemming from the Vedas thousands of years ago that come to the ultimate conclusion that individual consciousness is non-dual with universal consciousness. They are one in the same. Neo-Advaita Vedanta is very simple to describe now that we got that covered. It's just Advaita without the Vedanta. There's no reliance on the scripture. And there's no means to get you to the realization. Neo-Advaita is like someone taking Advaita Vedanta, going, okay, if the ultimate truth is that I'm one with everything, then that means I don't need to put any work in to realize it. Neo-Advaita is like a cop-out. It's like saying, oh, if I'm already universal consciousness, then that means I don't need to change my life in any way. I can continue with my old habits. I can continue being whatever I am. Nothing in my life has to change. There's nothing to realize. There's no procedure for you to do. There's no spiritual path. There's no journey. There's no meditation. There's no technique. No Vedanta. And to an Advaita Vedantin, this would be ridiculous. Because although it's true that at the ultimate layer of this experience, you are already enlightened and one with Satchitananda, existence, consciousness, bliss, you still have to put in the work to realize that it is not a given, because our limited experience is not dismissed. It's something that we work through various procedures and practices and techniques and meditations and thought experiments. There's pramanas, there's means and measures to actually being established in this truth. You have to put in the work. Neo-Advaita is very recent. It's something that's really happened in the last few hundred years, stemming from teachers like Ramana Maharshi and disciples like Papaji and Muji. And there's nothing inherently wrong with what they teach, it's just not Vedanta. So that's the distinction. So, then what of those who have that liberation without knowing the Vedas? Great question, dear Ella. The simple answer is that the Vedas are sufficient and probably the best way of realizing the truth. But for a very small, exceptional group of people who, for whatever reason, already have proper preparation in their samskaras and their impressions from past lives, they naturally wake up to this knowledge in the same way that the first rishis who revealed the Vedas did. But we need to be humble in that we can't assume that we're going to be like those. It is best for us to assume that we need the same kind of treatment as the majority. It's a fair assumption, but it is an assumption, you are right. Radhe, Radhe, dear Magdalene, dear Snaffalafagistji. Alright, there were some other wonderful questions asked. Thank you for your patience. Lorem, you had asked why I think dualities like heaven and hell, dark and light, and life and death exist. Because to have an experience, you need a subject and you need an object. That means you need two things. You need an experiencer and something to experience. As long as there is going to be an experience, there will be duality. But every duality is almost always secretly a trinity. There's always something that balances the two when you realize them as extremes on a spectrum, and that spectrum is one and non-dual. Just as you can realize the dualities of darkness and light, you can also realize the spectrum of shades and colors that exist between them. Just as you can look at the duality of heaven and hell, you can also see this world as that which spans both of them. Just as you can see life and death as a duality, you can also see this present moment as the simultaneity of the coming and going of life. Hello, dear Mariham. My bell is right here. Embrace the spectrum. The tagline for yogis and neurodivergent alike. Thank you, dear Inevitable, for your trio of roses. And tiny. Yahoo! In this present moment, all dualities merge into non-duality. Dear CJ, you had asked about good feelings and bad. And why do most people hide the bad? Is it about not labeling or judging? You are a great question asker, dear CJ. These are all such important questions. I'm really happy you're asking these for everyone, including myself, to reflect on. Yeah, it's just a matter of labels. One person might experience sadness as a bad feeling. Another person might actually find relief through it. This is something that I realized grieving a breakup that happened in my life a little over a year ago, is that at some point in all my crying, I realized that the sadness was actually what I needed in order to move on. We can get stuck in certain emotions, but it's all about the utility of any in particular. How can you utilize this feeling for good? That's our responsibility. Dear Kristen, you shared that you tried to watch me on YouTube, but you didn't find any videos this morning. That is probably because I have 3 different YouTube channels. I have the YouTube channel that I used to post on when I did TikTok videos here years ago now. But in order to separate the kinds of videos that would go on there and just the recordings of live streams, I've made a dedicated channel just for the recordings of the live streams. That's called Yamsox Lives. Yamsox space Lives, Lives. And you'll find that linked in my link tree in my bio. There's a link that's in a box, and it says past lives, a pun for, the concept of previous incarnations, but also for past recordings of these live streams. And to make things even more confusing, I have a 3rd channel where I post the live streams that take place on ASMR Sundays, as well as spiritual ASMR themed videos. Thank you, dear Usha Priyaji, for your hand hearts and septet of roses. Om Hrim Namah Shivaya. I hope that clarifies things. Hello, dear glory to Brahman. Radhe Radhe. You'd love to hear my thoughts on the Vaishnava perspective. For example, qualified non-duality by Ramanuja. Great question. This sounds like a question for the blackboard. And you are right, aren't you, dear Sky Guardian? Seems like Ishvara had answered my prayer recently. I was talking about how the guru of Sky Guardians, Swamiji, how his audience often asks very technical questions. And we were reflecting on the technicality of the questions in Swamiji's audience versus the generally the more general questions asked here. And I said I'd love to also try out my best at answering some technical questions. Ishvara has clearly answered that. Anyway, I'm happy regardless, so don't you worry. But yeah, let's talk about the differences between these schools of Vedanta. There are about 6 different schools of Vedanta, or 7. There's a beautiful chart that Sky Guardian had sent me. Maybe we can bring it up sometime. But for the purpose of this conversation and for keeping enough space on my blackboard, there's kind of really 3. There's Dvaita, which is duality. There's Advaita, non-duality. And then there's stuff in between. Like, for example, see if I have enough room to write this. There's Vashishtadvaita, which you've translated as qualified non-duality. And of course, Advaita is non-dual. It's kind of funny how there is a duality between Dvaita and Advaita, and there's also something in between. Vashishtadvaita. I actually kind of prefer the idea of something in between Dvaita and Advaita in theory. Like Vashishtadvaita says, ultimately all things are non-dual, but duality also exists. But the tricky thing about separating Vashishtadvaita from Advaita is if you go deep enough into Advaita, you also get the same truth. So it almost sounds like those who are going by Vashishtadvaita haven't gone far enough into traditional Advaita Vedanta to realize that they're actually coming to a conclusion that the Advaitins are also. They're just doing it perhaps prematurely, or you could say conversely that the Advaitins are doing it at a much later stage after people get the impression that the world is absolutely not real. To me, it all has to do with what you consider Maya to be. Because this word can be translated in 2 seemingly contradictory ways. You can understand this word as the material energy, or you can understand it in terms of an illusion. How do you spell illusion? It's 2 L's, right? Merry Christmas, dear JP. So here's what I think has happened. The Vashishtadvaitas, they think that the Advaitins think that Maya means illusion, and so they agree with the Dvaitins that say that Maya means material energy. But actually, if you go far enough into Advaita, you find it also ultimately translates to material energy. And the real Maya is not actually what you experience, but how you experience it. So I think the differences between these schools stem from a misunderstanding between each other. And so they've all cultivated a unique approach because they felt like the other approaches weren't suitable, and yet they all arrive at the same conclusion. And yet, the conclusion that they reach, they feel like they differ in. So the confusion to me is settled by understanding that there is a kind of Advaita, a non-duality between all these schools. They just approach the same thing in different ways. Ultimately, we just use our language differently. That's right, Lando. I'm happy you know the term darshanas, yes. Those are three of the main ones, founded by three different, what would you call it? Founders, I guess. Proclaimers, propellers, proponents, that's the word. The oldest of which being Advaita Vedanta, founded by Adi Shankaracharya. Then there is Vasishtadvaita, founded by Ramanujacharya. And then there is the Dvaita school, founded by Madhvacharya. That's some history. But personally, the more I study all three, the more I see how they're all just kind of the same. Which actually speaks to the benefit of Advaita, which the whole time had been saying that everything is Brahman. To me, they're all valid. Now, thank you, dear Kristen, for your 36 roses. Om Ganganapataye Namaha. Dear Joe, you ask, besides the Upanishads, what books do I recommend? I'd say before getting into the Upanishads, which can be pretty terse. For example, if I just open up a random page. What is this? Is this a commentary? Where's a teaching? They, i.e. the knowers of Brahman, see everywhere the supreme light which shines in Brahman, which is the all-pervading like the light of day, and which belongs to the primeval seed, perceiving the higher light in the sun which is above the darkness of ignorance, as the light higher in the heart, perceiving the supreme light which is higher than all lights. We have reached the highest light, the sun, the most luminous amongst the gods. Yea, we have reached the highest light, the sun, the most luminous amongst the gods. And then all sorts of commentary. They see means, that is to say, they realize Brahman as a result of the practice of self-control, continence, and other spiritual disciplines, and the higher light being a metaphor in the sun to Saguna Brahman, the universal consciousness endowed with qualities, which is created by the word tat, that, in the Vedic statement, Tattvamasi, that thou art, blah 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 blah. It's very philosophical, very dense. If you're into that sort of thing, wonderful. If you want an easier entry into this, there's no better text than the Bhagavad Gita, which comes in various different forms. It's very accessible. And it's said that all there is to know in the Vedas, in the Upanishads, you can come to know in the Bhagavad Gita. In fact, there's a quote from the Mahāvākyas, which is the greater story in which the Bhagavad Gita is a part of, that says, anything that is not in this story is not worth thinking about. It's so vast and so comprehensive that if something was missed, then it's probably by no mistake. Thank you, dear Talita, for your heart mate. Om Ram Bhairvaya Namo Namah. Dear Lala Michelle, thank you for your 19 ice cream cones. Om Kringalikaye Namah. And dear Fiddle Leaf, thank you for your heart mate. Radhe Radhe. Yeah, I always recommend starting with something before the Upanishads, because the Upanishads can be easily misinterpreted, and in a way that might even be harmful. Like, I actually had a really bad panic attack because I was not in the right mindset to be reading the Upanishads, and this talk about this world being an illusion was not something that I was ready to hear. And not even just at the level of course, the ego is never ready to hear, but genuinely, at a different part of my life, I was ready to hear, and it sunk in a way that was really helpful for me to understand these truths. And so I'm glad that I took some space away from that until I felt like I was more ready. Dear Spencerius, hello. You share that your lover left you the day after Christmas, and you've been devastated. How do you begin healing? I'm so sorry to hear that, dear Spencerius. I imagine that makes for very difficult holiday times. Not what we want from our true love. The day after Christmas, I hope you find time to grieve, really. You say you're devastated. Actually, the devastation is a part of the healing. It's part of the grief. All that grief is the love unsaid, unspoken, and we're just reallocating it in different ways. It's a process of having our heart so set on loving a person in a specific way, in a particular time, and then grieving the fact that obviously we can't do that anymore. Just like if you were told that you have to pack up your stuff at the office because you were let go, you're going to look at all the things on your desk and sigh, and you don't want to take it home, but now you start taking the things out of your desk and putting them in boxes and taking them home. In the same way, we look at the stuff in our heart that we don't want to take out of, and we start putting them in new ways. We reorganize them. During this time, may you find that the source of love was never in another person, but within you, and you had given the attribution of that love to them, which is a selfless thing you have done, and so beautiful. And they were honored, they are honored to have been given that attribution of your lover. But all the love you will find is still there within you, and it hasn't gone anywhere. And you are absolutely valid to grieve and be sad. That is the best thing you can do for yourself, is allow yourself to feel just what you're feeling. Honor your emotions. And it's going to be painful, and that's okay. Because when you allow yourself to go through this process, the pain can be seen as the process of healing itself. We can't expect healing to feel good, because if you break your arm, From the moment it's broken to the moment you take your cast off and then some, it will be sore. And its soreness is a sign that your body is reconfiguring itself to literally mend broken bones, connect tissue. All of that sends signals to your nerves to usher in more growth. So too, allowing these emotional wounds to be there, finding a kind of safety in our vulnerability, that acceptance ushers in the healing, as uncomfortable as it is. Of course, dear Stevie G, it was so out of the blue, you can't help but feel they did it impulsively and out of anxiety. You just hope one day he can heal and you can reconnect. That makes sense. I understand how you can feel that way. It's true that sometimes we do get scared and we push people away. But the best thing you can do in that case is to give them space. As counterintuitive as it sounds, if you love them, let them go. Because if someone pushes us away and we come closer, then they take even more steps back. If there is a future of reconnection, it's after you give some space, and healing is found sometimes in the distance that exists between two people, even people that are meant to be in each other's lives. You know, you love your family. Sometimes you need some space from your family so that you can be a better family member in the future. No, I was responding to your comment, dear Stevie G, when you said that you wanted to speak privately. I said of course to that. Sometimes the people that we're the closest with are the ones that are able to hurt us the deepest. Because every word we share with an open heart reverberates like an earthquake. When we open ourselves so much up to the love from someone else, then even a single negative comment can break our hearts. Or a single negative action, for example. We become so sensitive to the good and the bad. When that happens, it's very healthy to take some space from each other. And you don't have to think in terms of forever. Just in terms of moments by moments. In this moment, I'm okay. In this moment, I'm okay. In this moment, I'm okay. The beautiful thing for anyone to be so sensitive. That sensitivity reveals a deeper kind of love. And don't think of the distance as a punishment for anything. Think of it as the medicine needed to heal the relationship. Physical and emotional distance does not always equate to spiritual distance. You can be still very close with someone that you're having a rough patch with. You just need some time away from each other to discover your independence in healthier ways. And the most attractive thing that you can do after a breakup is to work on yourself. get therapy, get counseling, exercise, eat healthy. Not only is it, of course, a good thing to do in general, but it's a really attractive quality as well. Thank you, dear Fiddleleaf. Did I thank you for the harp me and paper crane you sent? Well, I'll always thank you twice, just in case, rather than not at all. Sa Soham. Thank you, dear Gina, for your rose. Om Aim Saraswatyai Namah. But I'm here for you, dear Spencerius. If I can keep my inbox open for you, please feel free to take advantage of that. If you need to vent, if you need to bounce ideas off of, I'm here for you. Breakups are like a little ego death. They can seem devastating in the moment, but bring us into our higher self. Dear Atrag, thank you for your bubblegum. Ram and Hybrid Jen, thank you for your finger heart. Om Braum Hanumate Namah. Dear Lorem, you ask, do I feel sensitive to the energy around me? And how do I recharge when I feel drained? What a great question, dear Lorem. Let's see if I can explore this visually too. It's so natural for us humans to be empathetic when we open up. Here's a person. Here, I'm gonna draw another person. And heart. When we notice that, let's say, someone's feeling down, you know, their levels are about here, and we are feeling up here, right? And clearly we have more than the other in terms of love or happiness. Then we can often, you know, give that energy to another person. We can fill them up, increase their levels. In the process, we can feel drained ourselves, and maybe we swap roles with them and now we're lower than they are. When that happens, it's important to draw love from another place yourself. And the best place to draw that from is the higher self. The higher self has a heart so big that it can never run out. And the more you connect with your higher self, the more that heart becomes yours. And now, when you're giving love to another person, it's not coming from your limited bank account, but from your higher self. And then they get filled up at the same time that you get filled up, because it doesn't come from you per se, but the divine. In practice, what that means is when you are giving energy, giving love to other people, You identify that not coming from what's here, but from what's up there. That when you see the smile appear on another person's face, you don't feel like you did that. You feel like the divine worked through you in that moment. Thus, you simply became the vehicle rather than the source. You became the instrument itself. Does a flute ever run out of air? How can a flute run out of air when it's not the source of air? But if the flute remains open, then that air will continue to flow through it. If we remain open to the grace that flows through us, then we get filled up in the exact same time. That's called karma yoga. When all of our actions are on behalf of the divine, we just feel like we're serving the divine. The divine has all this love to give. We are the distributors of that love. Oh, that's so sweet, dear Talon. Yes, welcome someone with a Cyrillic name. Please feel free to be here, and may you be filled up with the love going around. And whenever you feel like leaving, you're welcome to leave. I can call you Nikolayev. Maybe I can do some homework and work on my pronunciation for you. Dear Stevie G, did you have a question that didn't come through? A question on anger. Let me scroll up. I don't see it. I'm afraid it didn't come through, dear Stevie G. That sounds frustrating. I'm sorry. I did see some other questions that I missed though. Dear Grandma Fairy, welcome. You had asked, can a Western mind be changed to think like an Eastern mind when it comes to separation from ego? Of course! I was definitely one with a Western mind, and I still have a Western mind in many ways. Oh my goodness, you should have heard the ways I would be so judging to my mom when she would talk about spiritual things when I was younger, or my dad when he would talk about astrology. I'd say, no, science is the only way, and I'll be grateful when your generation forgets all this mumbo jumbo and whatnot. And it was very humbling to realize that I was wrong. That actually they weren't the ones holding on to dogma. I was. My dogma was my skepticism. So, I'm no different in that way in my past. What changed for me is spiritual experience like psychoactive substance. I hate to say it because I'm often saying how it's not necessary for many people. For me, I guess it was. I don't necessarily recommend it for all Western minds, but it is a genuine way of deconstructing the experiences that we have been so accustomed to in our societies in the West. But it's not the only way to create such transformative experiences. Also, a really good movie can do just the same. Or, a nice concert. Or you see a sunset, or you're out in nature and something just clicks. Transformative experiences can come in many ways. We just have to be open to going outside of our comfort zone. And naturally, we will experience new things which we will have to adapt to. like the fact that who we think we are is really just our sense of self, our ego, and our true self is something transcendental to what we have in our minds. Dear Talon, you had also asked, how do you stop allowing someone's negativity and comments to bring you down, even if you love them? By not taking it personally. If we feel like their negativity is directed at us, of course we feel defensive and our own survival mechanisms arise. If we understand that their negativity has nothing to do with us, even if they're saying things about us, actually they're only talking about a part of themselves. They're only talking about a version of you in their mind, which is them. Something that they are rejecting within their own experience. Imagine, dear Talon, suppose I came up to you and I said that before I say this, I should ask, dear Talon, are you a trying to think of an occupation that you wouldn't ever pursue? Are you a stock market analyst? Dear Talon, maybe you are. In your free time, or professionally, do you analyze the stock market? Kind of? Okay, let me pick a different thing then. I'm glad I asked. You work at a bank, or used to. Okay, how about a foreign disease specialist? Do you have any specialization in foreign diseases? Have you studied that? Never. Okay, good. So, if someone came up to you and they said, Talon, you're a terrible foreign disease specialist, would that hurt your feelings? Of course, someone calling you terrible is not exactly a good feeling, but would you be personally offended at being a terrible foreign disease specialist? No, right? You'd be so confused. Yeah. Why does this person think I'm a foreign disease specialist, right? And you'd probably try to explain to them how they're mistaken. It would be comedic even. You might even laugh. Like, who do you think I am? The truth is that we get caught up in that all the time. Someone comes up to us and says, I don't know, that you are a terrible so-and-so, or that you're not good at this, or you make me feel this way. And we feel like, oh, they're speaking about us. And of course, we get so drained at that. But if we understand that in the same way that someone might have misconstrued you for a foreign disease specialist, that they have misconstrued you in some way, that it's not an expression of you in any way, it's an expression of their misunderstanding of you. That's something that they have to learn. It's their lesson, not yours. Can you have help, dear Nikolayev? Of course. In any way that I can, of course. What can I be of help with? What can we be of help with? As a live stream. Dear Sarah, you share. Send some positive vibes, as you're not feeling well at the moment. positive vibes. I'm speaking like Elmer Fudd. Positive vibes are on their way to you. And there's nothing you can do to stop them. Dear Nikolaev, you ask, how can you not feel love towards someone who doesn't love you and is too old for you? Understandable question. You can never stop love. Love cannot be stopped, but we can be pragmatic about that love. We can understand that this person is not going to be accepting of our love, and so it would cross their boundaries if we were to express that love, maybe by, going up to them and kissing them, or writing love letters to them, or asking them to marry us, for example. That can be avoided. But the love is going to be there. We just have to find a way to express it in healthier ways, like journaling. You can write down why you have love for this person. Or you can express that love to them in ways that are not intimate, like friendship, for example. You can have love in many different ways. You can transform that love into a kind of platonic or unconditional love. But regardless, the love itself is not the problem. It's the form that that love has to take in your mind. If you believe the love must be one thing, that this love must mean that you both elope somewhere in the world and you have a family together and you have this idealized version of a love story, then we have been attached to just that, an idea that doesn't have to express that love in such a way. Love itself, by itself, is formless. Change the form if the form isn't applicable. You can't change the love. Thank you, dear Gina, for your heart me and GG and ice cream cone. Om Vasudevaya Namaha. You share that you're both men. How could you and them have a family though? Well, you are welcome to explore your sexuality regardless of gender, and if you live in a place that allows it, you can adopt, or you can have foster children, or you can have pets, or you can bring life into this world in other ways. There are many ways in which two people can bring life into this world. Thank you, dear DS, for your heart mate. Om Kamalyar Mahakalikaye Namaha. But most people find the 22-year age gap an issue. Well, that's understandable. There's always the concern of whether it's truly consensual. I'm not going to make that assumption. But if the only reason for not pursuing a love is just because you're worried about what others people might think, and it is truly consensual, and it's respectful of each other, then who is the relationship for? Is it for each other or other people? Who's the love for? Is it for each other or other people? If the love is for each other, then why do you care what other people think? It's not for them. It's for you. These are not easy questions to answer. Thank you, dear Adrag, for your heart mate. Om Sadhyo Jatam Prapadyami Sadhyo Jataya Vai Namo Namaha Bhave Bhave Nati Bhave Bhavaswamam Bhavod Bhavaya Namaha. Hello, dear Reina Ji. Dear Stevie G, wonder if I see your question now. I don't think I see your question, unfortunately, dear Stevie G. Oh, I don't know why it's picking on you so much. I'm so sorry, dear Stevie G. I wish there was something I could do to help other than remind you to try rephrasing a question in multiple ways. Dear Adrag, you had asked, if the goal is to let go of the ego, in what way is your true self different from my true self? Beautiful question. And I see it as more of a rhetorical question because you're right, there is no true difference in our true self. But the ego is not actually to be dissolved, at least not in the way we understand the ego as one of the four antahkaranas, which is the Sanskrit term for inner faculties of cognition. Everyone's all heard of the five senses. In Sanskrit, not only are there five outer senses, but there's also four inner senses. And the ego is actually just one of the inner senses. It's the inner sense of self. We use the translation of that in English in more than one way, but in the way that the Sanskrit word is used, ahankara, the sense of self isn't an enemy, but it can be a trickster because it can lead us into believing that we are something that we're not. Instead of getting rid of the ego, which would be like getting rid of one of your other senses. By the way, the other of the antahkaranas, the inner senses, include the mind, include the memory, and the intellect. Trying to destroy the ahankara, the sense of self, would be like trying to destroy your mind, or your intellect, or your memory. It's not necessary. And in fact, all of these things are vital to have a full human experience. The necessity of the ahankara, the sense of self, comes when it's used for the purpose of bringing ourself into an expanded state. Although it is true that our sense of self will always be limited, it's also always growing into new experiences. We continue to understand more parts of ourselves through the ahankara. The goal is simply to have a sense of self that's not rigid. Just as the Buddhists say that it would be an illusion to have a non-changing self. In this context, we have to be in pursuit of an evolving sense of self, one that accommodates change. That when we're faced with something that challenges our identity, that we grow to contain it rather than resist it. It's only in the resistance between who we think we are and our experiences that there's any harm. But as long as our sense of self is accommodating to new experiences, then it becomes a most essential part of our spiritual path. Yeah, I like how we're saying the same things in two different ways, dear Mike. Thank you, dear Hybrid Jen, for your heart me. and your 16 TikToks. Om Tat Purushaya Vidmahe Mahadevaya Dhimahi Tanno Rudrah Prachodayat. Dear Miss, you share, you need to let go of your past lover. If you love him, let them go, as they say. And in that space that you give them, you will find even more room for new love. Thank you, dear Reina Ji, for your trio of roses. Om Haum Jum Sa Om Bhur Bhuvaswaha Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Bhushti Vardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhanan Mrityor Mukshiya Mamritat. Om Swaha Bhuvaha Bhuh Om Saha Jum Haum Om. Welcome, dear little black muse. Are just on time, transitioning between topics. Release for new love, creating space for growth, embracing the present. Merry Christmas, dear Oreo. I'm happy you like my hair, dear Nikolaev. If you can call me Yam, of course. Yeah. My mom reminds me to take better care of it. Dear Donsuela, you're wondering what mantra that was. That's called the Mrityunjaya mantra, which means the great death-defeating mantra. It's also named after the first few words. The Triambakam mantra. Triambakam means the three-eyed one, as a reference for the one who has opened their third eye, Shiva. I call it the cucumber mantra, after the word Urvarukam, which means cucumber in Sanskrit. It means salutations to the three-eyed one, the fragrant one. I just love that. I just love how we're saying that Shiva is good smelling. We just have to add that. It's a really funny mantra if you think about it. It's got cucumbers. It's got the fact that we're calling Shiva one that smells good. Salutations to the one with their third eye open, the one that smells good, the nourisher. May you cut us from our stock of death, just like a cucumber is cut from its stalk. But may we not be freed from our immortality. May we be eternal, essentially. Yamoclaws, that's funny. Yamsox. Dear Sarah, you ask, why do some people physically and mentally suffer more than others? We're all at different stages in our journey. And what you might experience in this life might be different from what you might experience in a past life or a next life. We're all experiencing different parts of the same journey, so that when one person is in a good state, that another person can be helped, and when one person is in need of help, another person can be there to help. Because if we all went through the same journey in the same order, the same stages, then when we're all having a low moment, how would we be able to help each other? And if we're all having a high moment, then what purpose would we have? Because we have so much help to give, but no one to give it to. So the offset between our journeys is what allows there to be someone that you can help when you are in the mood of helping, and someone that can help you when you are in need of help. Dear Lorem, you share, to continue on Karma Yoga topic, how to act selflessly, but not to abandon your own well-being. It's actually a really almost ridiculous answer to your question. You are not the body. If the body is not the self, and our well-being in this case is talking about the body, then taking care of the body is selfless. Because the body isn't you. Being selfless means to take care of everything in the world. That includes your body, because your body is not a part of you, it's part of the world. The difference is that someone without this understanding takes care of their body as if it were themselves. But someone with this understanding takes care of their body, understanding that it's not their self, but a part of the things to take care of in the world. Our body is also the most important thing to take care of in the world, because it is what allows us to take care of other things too. If you can't take care of the part of the world that is your body, how can you take care of any other part of the world like everybody else? If you want to take care of a flower, if you don't take care of the roots, how can you take care of any other part of the flower? You can do absolutely everything to take care of the flower petals and the stem and the leaves. But if you're not taking care of the roots, the flower will die. Our body is kind of like the roots in this example. Out of the roots of our body grows the things that we do in the world. The flowers, the change that we create in other people's lives. Om Mani Padme Hum. So much wisdom is being shared in the chat. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, exactly. Most people have heard the adage, put your oxygen mask on before others. Dear Don Suela, you ask, for those unable to take care for their bodies, for example, disability, how can they be of service to others? Beautiful question, dear Don Suela. One of the most obvious answers to me is that they provide an opportunity for other people to care. And that's a beautiful thing no matter what. In this case, the opportunity they give to others happens to be to take care of their own body. But whenever you push someone out of their comfort zone to take care of another person, or you inspire them to help others, that is a selfless thing to do. Just like the story that I tell with my mother, when I apologize to my mother about being sick and I feel bad that she has to take care of me, I am reminded by her that I wouldn't let her take care of me otherwise. And so she's grateful for the opportunity to be my mother and mother me. And that really shifted my understanding of selflessness. That here, she was doing something to take care of this body, this mind, and yet she was grateful for that. I think in the same way, doctors, nurses, caretakers, counselors, therapists, they are fulfilled by having someone to take care of. That the need is not strictly in the person. The need is in the caretaker to have a place or a person to put their care, to put their love. People who have disabilities of different kinds, they provide us opportunities to love, and I am blessed to be able to attend to their needs. Not only that, but the moments we have with people, even if they're not physically doing much, can be deeply transformative in terms of conversations we can have with them, in terms of exploring what the mind has to offer, in terms of just the presence that you feel with them. Everyone has the ability to give, even when it seems like they're the ones receiving. And I like that addition a lot, Mike. Listening can be a great service to others. Thank you for such a beautiful question, dear Don Suela. I'm happy that resonated with you, dear little black muse. Healing others is a gift to ourselves. Thank you, dear Ragnhildur, for your blooming ribbons. Om Bhairava Rudraya Maha Rudraya Kala Rudraya Kalpanta Rudraya Veera Rudraya Rudra Rudraya Ghora Rudraya Aghora Rudraya Martanda Rudraya Anda Rudraya Brahmanda Rudraya Chanda Rudraya Prachanda Rudraya Thanda Rudraya Shura Rudraya Veera Rudraya Bhava Rudraya Bhima Rudraya Atala Rudraya Vitala Rudraya Sutala Rudraya Mahatala Rudraya Rasatala Rudraya Talatala Rudraya Patala Rudraya Namo Namaha. Dear Miss, you ask if I have any message for you. Well, you had asked previously about letting go of your past lover. I say, do not let go of the love you have for anybody, but realize that everything you have to love about another is something you have to love within yourself. You may be separated from another, but you can never be separated from what you have to love, because all of that is a reflection of a part of you. We fall in love with each other because we bring out the best in one another. Thank you, dear Reina G, for your finger heart and your 42 ice cream cones. Om Aghore Sarvatash sarva sarvebhyo namaste rudra rupebhyah. Dear Lorem, you share that healing others is a gift, but should you feel ashamed for feeling drained and empty? I agree that healing others is certainly a gift, but you should never feel ashamed for your sensitivity or vulnerability, as that's your greatest gift. As you continue to grow, like us all, we learn how to be empathetic without being drained. There is a way. That way is called Karma Yoga. That we see the service that we render unto others as not something that we provide, but actually something that the divine provides for us. When we understand that all the help we give is actually the divine's gift to us, so that we have a purpose and meaning in life, then each interaction can leave us feel fulfilled rather than drained, because the energy transaction was not taking a part away from us, but giving us something new. Of course, we all have to take care of our bodies and our minds. We all have to set boundaries with people that take advantage of our bodies and our minds. That is also a part of ensuring that we do not feel drained when it comes to the gift that is empathy and selfless service. Thank you, dear John Simon, for your heart, me and Gigi. Om Sum Suryaya Namaha. Dear Rumple, you ask, am I enlightened? I am not enlightened, but every day I strive to become a little more enlightened in terms of learning something new, perhaps about myself or my relation and role to others, and any kind of humility that comes in the process is mine to learn, to reflect on my mistakes, of which I make many. My knowledge is far from perfect, and I have a long way to go. And that journey excites me, and I'm inspired for each day. Dear Dean, you ask if I like the story about the prince who sacrificed himself to the hungry tiger. You remind me of a story that I think I have heard, but I forget exactly how that story goes. Is that the story where the tiger was going to eat something else, like little birds or something, and to save the little birds, the prince offered himself instead of the animals? Lots of stories with tigers in them. I love that, Mike. Enlightenment may be the goal, but I pray I never reach the end. It's beautiful, dear Stevie G. I love that, Lando. Krishna says something like, Always follow the swadharma, the right thing, the right that is made for you, your own purpose and place in the entire cosmos. Meditate on the energy you need and request the self to fulfill. It's beautiful. Our humility fosters our growth because it keeps us looking up. Everything we do is a learning moment. Reflect, learn, evolve. Welcome back, dear Lucy. You're just in time for me to reveal my question of the day. Today I wonder, what makes you feel accomplished? Or you know what? Let me rephrase this in terms of the present tense. What makes you feel like you are accomplishing? That's what's most important. Not the result, but the process. The present moment. Shares mic. This moment. Good answer. Dear Kitty Fun, do you share when you have meaningfully connected with your partner and each child? I love that. That connection is so precious, so pure. We expand into those dimensions we open through connection. Fiddleif, you share when you take action towards something you want or need to do. I like that too. Little Black Muse, you share movement, energy in motion, intending productivity. I like that. Dear Grandma Fairy, you share when you can make someone happy by being kind and helpful in any way you can. That's so beautiful. Dear Dalita, you share typing up a beautiful Word document for uni. And you ended that with a sad face. Such a beautiful thing. Making a meal you think would be nice. Staying in touch with family and friends. I like all these additions. It's called The Bodhisattva and the Hungry Tiger. You're double checking now. Thank you for checking, Dean. I like stories. The well-being of your kids shares, dear Mirna. What a wonderful mother you are. You love helping others, dear Stevie G. Making, finishing music, sharing music with others, and they love it. There you share the feeling when you're supporting your friends. Lando, you share you've always had a tumultuous relationship with accomplishment, quote unquote, as an idea, but when I feel others at peace, it reminds you how much you've learned and gone through to reach peace yourself. That is very beautiful. Hundo, you share, what do you call a fish with a tie? Sophisticated. Dear Mike, you share, changing your opinion based on new information. That is powerful. That is a superpower. Yeah. When you can make strangers smile, dear crossfires. I like that. DVG, you share. Also, if you do a nice, beautiful exercise and practice for each day. I like that too. Dansuela Priyaji, you share. When you are being kind to yourself and doing what you can in the moment. Ragnhildur Priyaji, you share. When you feel you're truly here now. Reina Priyaji, you share. When life compiles and returns zero. Oh, how profound that connection is. Funny how we return zero when it executes successfully. Anything other than that would be an error code. What is zero if not that which comes even before the one? Dear Magdalene Snuffleupagus Rain Priyaji, you share by honoring yourself. Absolutely. Dear Stevie G, you share. When you hear, I am proud of you. From you or others. It's beautiful. Thank you, dear Lando. And the accomplishment of this space is an ongoing process that's made possible by people like you. A Sangha would not be possible without its Sangis. Erica, you ask, why did the tomato cross the road? To catch up. Oh no. You know what that means. Thank you, dear Diane. I did have a nice Christmas. I hope you did too. The new year is approaching. Crossfires, you ask, what would it mean when someone suddenly feels fear while becoming more aware of existence? That we are coming into contact with the unknown and making it known, and naturally there's a part of ourself that is scared of the unknown as a survival mechanism, but it's a voice of many, and it doesn't have to drown out the others. We can let Bravery's voice take charge as we venture into further possibility. Life is terrifying, but it's also terrific. Life is awesome. It's also awful. Just depends whether you turn that awe into something awful or awesome, or if you turn that terror into something terrible or terrific. Italy, if you share, a burger walked into the bar and the bartender said, sorry, we don't serve food here. That's great. I don't know where the dad jokes came from, everyone, but I'm all for it. Dear Myrna, you share, you have a lot of unfinished projects and it's frustrating. You keep on creating projects that you don't finish. That's okay, dear Myrna. Life is not something to finish. Life is a process of beginnings, and you are a perfect expression of that, Myrna. Dear CY, hello. Your answer of the question of the day is to sustain frequency across time that can teach us all from within. Stability, in short. I love that. Thank you everyone for exploring this question of the day together. I am honored to echo such wisdom. I will add to all the wonderful answers so far that we feel most accomplished when we are in the process of working towards something that we feel is an accomplishment. Ironically, the places we're not quite there yet when we are moving in that direction is precisely where we need to be. Consuela, you share the question. What do you call a fly without wings? A walk. That's so good. I like that. It reminds me of the joke, what's the difference between a housefly? Or, no, sorry. I already revealed the punchline. Oh. What's the difference between a house and a fly? Well, I've seen a housefly. No, wait. How does this joke go? I don't even remember at this point. That I've seen a housefly, but I've never seen a fly house. Ah, ay caramba. Reminds me of the time that I messed up a joke when I was at tennis camp, and for whatever reason, my tennis camp counselor, teacher, he had set us all up in a line, and he was going to whack a tennis ball at us unless we could tell a joke that could make him laugh. And I was the first person to make him laugh because I messed up my joke. But the joke that I messed up at that time was not the housefly joke, but it was the impatient cow joke. The impatient cow joke is supposed to go like this. Knock knock. Who's there? Impatient cow. Moo. But I forgot to interrupt the impatient cow who part. So I was actually a patient cow. He said knock knock. I said, no wait, I said knock knock. I'm messing up my joke about my joke. I said knock knock, he said who's there, I said impatient cow, he said impatient cow who, and then I waited a few seconds, and then I said moo, and then I said wait a second. And I messed up so bad that I made him laugh. Dear little black muse, you had asked, how do we change the subconscious mind to increase frequency? If you want to make your subconscious mind full of positive things, then you have to make your conscious mind full of positive things. Think of your brain like a toilet. And when you go to sleep at night, you flush the toilet. Whatever you flush down the toilet, that's going to be in the sewers. Your sewers are the subconscious. What you put in the toilet is what you put in your conscious mind during the day. if your subconscious mind is filled with fear, then how are you spending your days if not in fear? There must have been something that you experienced consciously that made you afraid, some trauma, for example. If you're constantly listening to scary stories, then of course you're going to have nightmares. If you are surrounded by negativity, then your negativity is going to become part of your subconscious too. So, fill your conscious mind with positive things. And slowly but surely, every night when you flush the toilet, all of that positivity will add to what's there in the subconscious, and it'll start working with all the other things there. The beautiful thing about positivity is it's not static, it's dynamic. It changes the things around it too. Just by bringing in a few positive things into your subconscious, that can start untangling knots, illuminating the space around it, warming it up. Why toilets, asks Myrna. I don't know. That's just what I came up with at that moment. Apologize. We need to fill our conscious and subconscious thoughts with some good fiber and greens. That's right. What is fiber? Well, fiber, if you don't have it, then what is going to be in the toilet is not exactly going to be all together. It's going to be scattered. It's going to be falling apart. Fiber for our mental diet is that which makes connections between things, finding parallels between parts of our day, like between art and science. You could say that science can be a bit of an art. Art can be a bit of a science. That's the fiber, connecting things together, keeping your world together so it doesn't fall apart into distinct rigid categories. And what's the greens? Well, the greens contains all the nutrients, of course. Macro and micronutrients. The greens for our mind. So the nutrients of the mind. Kindness, validation, support. If you have a mind filled with those things, it leads to a very healthy mind, doesn't it? Dear Mike, you ask if I've got any up dog. Yeah. I've got a lot of up dog, actually. Thankfully. Many dogs in my life that I look up to. I'm supposed to say what? What's up, dog? What's up, dog? Nothing much, dog. How about you? Alright, this live stream has been a delight. I would like to transition now to the final portion of our Sangha, dedicated to Nididhyasana, putting into practice all the things we've learned today, implementing, integrating. I have to travel to the next universe over. 1 second. Sorry, it takes a lot of energy. To go to another universe that quickly, it's very draining. Anyway. We should embrace joyful transitions. All this toilet talk has been making me sound constipated. Did you know yogis, they had such a potty mouth? It's true. In fact, there's even a beautiful spiritual metaphor that I've been waiting for the right moment to talk about, but it involves our pee. And it's just going to be very difficult to find a time where it's appropriate to talk about the beautiful pee metaphor that the yogis give us. Here it is. The yogis say that even if you pee into a puddle and the puddle becomes nasty, does the nastiness of the puddle make the light that reflects off of it impure? No matter how impure your pee puddle is the light coming off of it any less pure? This is an ancient Vedic metaphor. No. Same yellow light. Or, depending on what you've been eating, it might be a different color. You cannot measure the photon and see that any quality has diminished in that. What does that mean? The metaphor, the light is a metaphor for the chit, the consciousness. The puddle is a metaphor for the mind. That even an impure mind still reflects pure light. That no matter how impure your mind may be, and in this case we're talking about it being a negative mind, even if your mind is selfish and negative, full of fears and desires, the light that comes off of that is still pure as a reflection of your true self. Of course, however, you would much rather prefer to play in a puddle that is pure, in the same way that we would still prefer to have a pure mind. That is the goal. But that's not to confuse the impurity of the mind for the impurity of the soul. You love that, dear Dansuela. The yogis could find beauty in anything. This metaphor has gone a lot better than I expected it to. Thank you for saying that, dear Dansuela. I agree. Welcome, dear Hybrid Jen. There's also the beetle that pushes the dung ball metaphor. Yeah. The yogis were just really wise children, basically. You can think of them like that. Talking about pee and poop in such divine ways. Ways that bring us into contact with our higher nature. And you know what's so funny about these TikTok lives? Is there's always someone coming in at any part of the sentence, any part of the conversation. Someone probably just joined just on that. Now there's no context for that. The scarab. That's right, little black muse. Dear Donsuela, you share that you have dear friends who are a little rough around the edges, as these puddles are. They are pure. I love that. Alright, the meditation I had planned for tonight is... What is that? That's my webpage. What was I looking up? Oh, I was looking up the Adi Shakti mantra, that's right. I didn't mean to bring that up. I meant to bring up this. Tonight, I wanted to meditate on the eternal liberation of the present moment. And if that sounds enticing for you, I'd love for you to stay here as we spend the next few minutes contemplating together on this subject. We can all start by breathing. Breath is our tether to the present moment. If you're not breathing, how can you be present? If we're holding our breath, it's probably because we anticipate something. Or if we forget to breathe, it's probably because we were caught up in the past. But if you're consciously breathing, you must be here and now, because the breath cannot exist elsewhere. Breathe with your tummy, filling that up before your chest, letting that sense of expansion fill your whole being. And when you exhale, just let it release like a balloon naturally deflates without having to put any pressure on it. As you keep breathing, I want to tell you a story you may have heard before. A story about a clockmaker who was so skilled in his craft that you could say he breathed life into every creation. One day, the clockmaker was finishing up his latest creation. He was putting in the final cog in the clockwork. When that final cog slid onto the axis, you could hear an audible sigh. But it wasn't from the clockmaker. It was from the clock. The clockmaker said, "Mr. Clock, did I just hear a sigh come from you?" To his surprise, the clock replied. He said, "Yes. I was just thinking, you have made me so exceptionally well that I will probably tick-tock forever." "Well, that doesn't sound like a bad thing at all," the clockmaker replied. "It is precisely my intention to have you to be around for a long while. Clock said, yes, but thinking about how many tick-tocks I'll have to do from now until forever, I can't help but already feel exhausted. Then the clockmaker understood. I see your problem, Mr. Clock. You are blessed with having work to do from now until forever. You can already anticipate just how much energy that will take. But remember, I have made you to keep track of only the present time. You will indeed keep track of the time 5 seconds from now, 5 hours from now, 5 years from now, but you only ever have to keep track of this moment. You only ever have one tick, one talk to do. When the clock heard that, it began to make sense, and he realized that it's true. His purpose as a clock is not to keep track of time tomorrow, or the next week, or the next month, but only to be present. So too, our breath is just like the tick, the tock of the inhale and the exhale. If you are ever stressing out about anything that you anticipate, remember that all you have to do is get to the next inhale, the next exhale, because that's all that exists for you. Notice that when the mind is centered on something that truly exists here and now, that it's not in a state of worry naturally. When we are feeling restrained or limited, it is almost always because our mind is situated on something taking place outside of here and now. In our memory of the past, or our imagination of the future, or in the awareness of something that is perhaps taking place outside of our current walls and environment. But just like the clockmaker had only designed the clock to keep track of whatever the current moment was, you are designed to only need to attend to what is directly before you now. This moment will certainly change, just as the clock will keep track of the change of time as well. But all you ever have to do is attend to what is within this moment exactly. In the eternal moment, you find liberation. Your freedom is found by bringing your attention to what exists presently. If you have trust in the idea that you are only meant to attend to what is within your experience now, then you never have to worry for a single second about any other time. You know that whatever comes, you are meant to experience just that in that moment. And whenever something goes, you trust that you are meant to experience something new. If you can open into that space of the present moment, where you realize you are, have been, and will always be free, that no matter the challenge that faces you, everything you need in order to attend to that challenge is also here. If nothing can exist for you outside of this moment, then nothing you need exists outside of this moment either. That all of the problems in this moment also have their solutions in this moment. So, just as it is true that there is always some aspect of this moment which can be solved, you are never separate from the solutions either. Everything that needs to change is also here. All the tools that you need to make that change happen are also here. And the stage of that change which you need to be in is also here. Life is not something to conclude, nothing to be done with, to finish up, to come to some permanent resolution with. Life is an eternal process of becoming. It matters not what we become, it matters what we are becoming. And the difference is, on one hand, we're result-oriented, thinking about ourselves as something that must be in a future time. And on the other hand, we are present, grounded in the fact that everything is a happening. Everything we need to be, we are becoming now. The process unfolds gradually, this moment unfolding naturally. It is not about what unfolds, it's about the unfolding. Not about what you learn, but about the learning. Not about what stage of growth you reach, but about the growing. Not about a place of being healed, but being a part of the healing. Everything you need to be, you are already now, and what you are now is changing. Worry not about becoming best. Worry not about being best. You are already becoming better, and you do so more and more effortlessly as you allow yourself to be where you are now. There are many situations in your life that may be challenging, and we all can relate in that. But you don't have to literally be free from the challenge to be liberated from the suffering we associate with being stuck now. For true acceptance of the present moment does not necessarily entail stagnance, but rather a kind of stillness from which you can go. The path does not end in acceptance, it begins from there. As the journey ahead of you must accommodate where you are now, and if you can't agree with where you are now, then where is your next step going to land? If you want to break free, we must start where we are now, and it is the perfect place to begin. All things worth pursuing take their origin in the here and now. Everything that deserves to be done begins here. Therefore, being here is precisely where you need to be in order for all those good things to manifest. This present moment is like a canvas, and you cannot create a painting without something beneath it. This present moment is like silence. You cannot sing if there is not silence to sing through. This present moment is like the stage. You cannot dance if there's nothing to dance upon. Though it is ultimately the dance, the song, the painting that is to be admired, there would be nothing to admire without the foundation beneath. And that is the purpose of this present moment, as the eternal source for all that has to be painted, sung, danced as, for, and to. It all flows from here, in their source, in their origin, the Creator. Thank you for listening or meditating with me. Welcome everyone that joined while we were meditating. We've come to the end of our live stream. Much love to you. Thank you, dear Lily B. Thank you for the 10 roses you sent while we meditated. Om Ishana Sarva Vidyanam Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Brahma Dipati Brahmano Dhipatir Brahma Shivo Mestu Sa Eva Sada Shiva Om. I love to see kindness here. Thank you, Fatum, for your pair of roses. Om Narayanaya Vidmahe Vasudevaya Dhimahi Tanno Vishnu prachodayat. I like that, Don Suela. Meditations are a kind of medication, just for the soul. Thank you, Gina, for your trio of roses. Om Vamadevaya Namo Jeshtaya Namah Shreshtaya Namo Rudraya Namah Kalaya Namah Kalavikaranaya Namo Balaya Namo Balapramatanaya Nama Sarva Bhuta Damanaya Namo Manonmanaya Namah. I'm so grateful for this space. Have a good night. Thank you for being here, everyone. Stopping by, expressing yourselves. It's all divine. May this live stream be an offering to the divinity within you. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Mritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to the light, from death to deathlessness. Om. May there be peace in us, may there be peace in our environment, and may there be peace in the forces that act on us. Thank you to my lovely moderators for helping keep the peace. Thank you, dear Hybrid 10, for your rose. Ram Ram. This live stream will be uploaded to my Yamsox Lives YouTube channel, in case there's any part of it you wanted to watch again, or in case you want to know of where we put these if you're unable to watch a certain live but you want to. The meditations that we do, the show and tells, and the readings all have their own playlists too. If you ever want to catch up on our reading, like Moksha, Liberation, and the many other books that we've read to completion. If there's any way in which I can make this space more inclusive next time, please let me know. Hold me accountable to that. Embrace more humility each live stream. Much love to you, dear little black muse. Good night. Sleep well, dear Gina. Whenever you get there. I imagine it's probably the middle of the day for you in the Philippines. Namaste, dear Mirna. Always happy to receive feedback, especially in my inboxes, which are always open on Instagram, Telegram, WhatsApp, email. Check out the link tree in the bio for all the other stuff we do in this community, like the Discord server, if you want to be a part of Hridaya Kasha, Heart Space. Sweet dreams, dear Dalita. Good night, dear Dalim. May you all have a wonderful rest of your present moment. Namaste.